So the New York strip steak is one of those steaks that really benefits from being cooked quickly and over high heat. I also want to add that it really benefits from being cooked while it's at room temperature too. When you're ready to cook it, pull it from the refrigerator, about 30 minutes, then you're good to go.
When choosing a New York strip at the store, I recommend getting choice grade. It still has pretty decent marbling in it and it has a good amount of flavor. Also choose center cuts. First thing I like to do is get my large saute pan ripping over medium-high heat. There is minimal prep work that is involved with the sauce. I have one shallot that gets roughly chopped and also have 3 cloves of garlic. Give them a smash, remove the outer papery layer, and give them a rough chop as well. Now moving on to the New York strip steak itself. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, working with room temperature steak is best. When you're ready to cook the steak, pat the thing dry on both sides. Season it pretty heavily, of course to taste, with kosher salt and freshly cracked black pepper. Of course you want to season both sides as well, so flip it over, do the same thing, pat it dry, salt, freshly cracked black pepper. That is really all you need to do to the steak. All the flavor is going to come from the steak being pan-seared over that high heat and getting that insane caramelization on it. The weight of the steak that I'm cooking today is around 12 ounces and it's about an inch thick. We're definitely going to be able to cook the steak medium rare with the beautiful pan sauce in under 10 minutes. By now this pan has been warming up 2 to 3 minutes over medium high heat. Check to see if it's warmed up, drop some water in it, and if it beads up like that on the surface, then you're ready to go. Just make sure you wipe it off before placing in any kind of oil. I like using canola oil when I cook steaks. It has a neutral flavor on it, so that's about 2 tablespoons, and carefully place the steak away from you, not as I showed you, when dropping it into the pan. Start the timer, and that's going to sear on this first side for about 2.5 minutes. Do not disturb the steak as we want to get that Maillard effect going, which is that beautiful caramelized crust on the outside of it. 2.5 minutes is up, flip the steak over. Take notice on that color that we have on that first side of the steak. That is beautiful caramelization. That is the Maillard effect that I was talking about. That is delicious flavor. Cook the steak on the second side, of course, without disturbing it for an additional 2.5 minutes. After about 1.5 minutes or so, I like to check the steak and see where it's at. That should be about rare stage at this point, about 4 minutes in. At this point, I drop in a couple tablespoons worth of cold unsalted butter, a couple cloves of garlic, 2 sprigs of fresh rosemary. Now, I like to heat up the rosemary in that hot butter for a couple seconds and then place it on top of the steak. The garlic and the rosemary flavored the hot butter as I'm basting the steak, and that's going to add even more flavor to this already delicious steak. As we're cooking the steak and basting it, the time frame that should go by is about 1 minute. All said and done, the amount of time that this steak has been cooking in the pan is 5 minutes. So at this point in time, we want to pull it from the hot pan and set it aside on a plate. I'm going to place the garlic and the rosemary on top of the steak and place that hot butter on top of the steak and let it rest while we make the sauce. The sauce includes 2 tablespoons worth unsalted butter, handful of green peppercorns, half of a cup heavy cream, 1 shot worth honey whiskey. To start, drop in 1 tablespoon of that butter into the pan, let it melt completely before adding in the shallot. We want to salt the shallot now to pull out that natural beautiful sweetness that the shallot has out. We're only going to sweat the shallots down for about 30 seconds. Stirring frequently, I want to add that I reduce the cooking temperature to medium at this point in time. Add a little bit more butter if you need some more fat to cook with. The shallots are going to slightly caramelize and they're going to get even more brown color from the brown bits that are on the bottom of the pan. Now we want to add the garlic. Sweat the garlic for about 30 seconds until it becomes fragrant, stirring frequently so it doesn't burn. Deglaze the pan with the honey whiskey. No need to ignite the alcohol, and you're going to let the whiskey reduce to about 1 tablespoon, scraping those beautiful caramelized bits on the bottom of the pan as it reduces. Once the whiskey has been reduced, add the heavy cream. I turn the cooking heat back up to medium-high. A small amount of heavy cream should instantly bring it up to a simmer. We want to simmer this for about 2 minutes until it reduces fully. At this point in time, you could drop in the green peppercorns, and now we're just going to keep cooking the sauce down until it reduces to a nice thick consistency. Like I said, this should only take about 1, maybe even 2 minutes for the small amount of cream to reduce to a nice thick consistency, right? If you scrape your spoon on the bottom of the pan and the sauce leaves streak marks in it, you know you're fully reduced at that point. That really light brown color is also a good indicator. 9.5 minutes is all it took to cook the steak and make that beautiful sauce. The steak has rested for about 3 to 4 minutes. Put it on a plate. I love the consistency on that sauce. It has such a great amount of flavor. Definitely do not be shy with the amount of sauce that you put on the steak. I love to cover the entire steak with the sauce. This New York strip steak is definitely tender, cuts really nicely, and is a perfect medium rare. An incredible amount of flavor from pan-searing the steak, basting it with the butter that's flavored with the garlic and the rosemary, and of course finishing it off with that honey whiskey green peppercorn sauce. Nice and tender, juicy, and of course it's delicious.